Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron. Welcome back today to another live stream. It is the game preview. Everton taking on Burnley tomorrow at Turf Moor in what is arguably our biggest game of the season so far. I know some people would argue against that, and I know some people would say that, there's still a lot of football to be played and this isn't season defining, but for me, this is, one of them games that I think come tomorrow evening at, whatever it is, 10 o'clock, 10:30, we will either be a little bit happier and a little bit calmer about the situation that this football club is in, or I think the majority of the fan base will be conceding what could very well be the fate of the football club. The magnitude and the sheer size of this game of football and how much this game of football means, not just for Everton, but for both teams, by the way, is giving me anxiety even thinking about it, and we're not even in a match day. I've had, obviously, Merseyside derbies every year make you feel on edge, and a couple of days before you're sort of worrying about it, what happened, what's going to happen, what isn't, and the day of the game, you sort of, you can't stop twitching and thinking about it. You're on the edge of your seat until kick-off, all the way throughout the game. It's horrible, but I've never really felt that feeling before about a game against a team like Burnley at Turf Moor, and that typically is because, usually there's such a difference in points and a difference in league position between the two teams that typically this game isn't necessarily one that we worry about in the way that we're worrying now, and that isn't an indication on Burnley in any sense of the imagination. It's an indication on how badly Everton are run and how much we've dropped over recent years. Is the fact that we're genuinely sitting here talking about a midweek game away at Burnley being arguably one of our biggest in the last decade, certainly for me our biggest of the season. And whilst we could lose tomorrow and still very much stay up in the division, i.e. by going on a run of 4 or 5 games post tomorrow and getting results, or Burnley and Watford, continuing their poor form post tomorrow, whilst that could happen, I feel like that there's a very, very slim chance of that. And as I said yesterday, I honestly am at this point now where I feel if Everton are to stay in the Premier League, it will be on the basis of both Burnley and Watford not being able to pick up a run of form, or find a hero that takes them through the next couple of weeks, rather than Everton doing that, because I don't look at any player. There's not one single player I look at in that team and think they'll be the hero, they'll be our Kevin Campbell, if you like, they'll be our saviour, they'll be the player we look back on in the summer and think, thank God they stepped up and took the bull by the horns, to coin a popular saying, and I just don't see us going on a run of 4 or 5 games without dropping a single point either, because the last time we picked up a point away from home was in December against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Last time we won an away game was right at the start of the season against Brighton, obviously not counting the cup games in between. So there is a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of worry going into this one, and I want to try and stay as positive as possible. I want to try and be as optimistic going into this one, and not particularly pessimistic. But as I said, this is a massively important game of football for both sides. Burnley as well. Burnley currently sitting, they've played 28 games. They're sitting 19th in the Premier League, I believe. I don't know why I didn't put their position down. They're sitting 19th in the Premier League. Everton obviously sitting 17th. 28 games played. 3 wins, 12 draws, 13 losses, with 21 points, and they're 4 points behind Everton on the same amount of games as Everton, of course. Watford I believe we've got a couple of games in hand on Watford. But, again, only 4 points behind Everton. If they're to win tomorrow, they go within a point of Everton, and obviously if Watford are to win, whenever they next play, they will go on the same point as well. So this game for me is an absolute must not lose. Now, I've seen a couple of people on social media and in the comments on yesterday's video and on Twitter and stuff saying it's a must win, and I would agree it is a must win, because if we're going to have any form of sort of lift of pressure and lift of worry and lift of anxiety, then we need to be going into these games and winning them. We need to be coming out and with 3 points, which is a massive task, whether you like it or not. I've seen some people say, no, be easy, this Burnley aren't very good. We have not picked up a point away from home since December. We're now in April. Now, when you look at some of the teams we've played away from home in that period, that is absolutely disastrous. It's absolutely disastrous. But as I said, for me, again, if you were to say to me now, Cam, would you take a 0-0 today in that game tomorrow? I'd absolutely snatch your hand off for it, because as much as it might be pessimistic, as much as it might be negative, obviously I want Everton to win, and Everton can win. I believe Everton can win. We proved that when we played Burnley at Goodison Park. It only took a spell of 9 minutes and they completely fell to bits, and all of a sudden we went from being out of control of the game to being comfortably winning the game, and scored 4 goals in 9 minutes, as I said, one of them being disallowed. But what we absolutely mustn't do tomorrow is lose this game of football. I can't even begin to imagine and discuss and describe how much of a disaster it would be if Burnley take 3 points off Everton tomorrow. Not only for Everton and for our situation, but also for Burnley's situation. It'd be great for Burnley, of course it would be, but for Burnley's situation in the context of Everton's season, it would be disastrous, because they would then go, as I said, a couple of points, a point even behind us, and that could be their catalyst to go and get a little bit of confidence, a little bit of momentum, to maybe even go on a run of 3-4 games themselves without dropping a point or picking up a point here and there, and that would really drag Everton into the shit. Albeit there's 9 games to go, 10 games to go, all of that sort of stuff. I understand that, and as I said, that's why I said at the start of the video, it's not like if we lose tomorrow we're absolutely down, we're completely in the dumps. There is still very possible way of getting out of this, but I just feel like the general consensus around the fan base, if we do lose tomorrow, will be that's it, we're not getting out of this. And as I said before, this is massively important for Burnley as well. Sean Dyche and these Burnley players and those Burnley fans will be thinking this is a great opportunity for them to pick up 3 points, which would be a massive 3 points for them, and against a team that are, let's be honest, absolutely disastrous away from home. We were marginally better. We were marginally better on Sunday against West Ham, but being in the stadium myself, I can honestly say that it wasn't great. I've seen a couple of people saying, we were very good against West Ham, we were just unlucky. We weren't very good at all. We didn't create much. We created a couple of chances. Obviously, we scored, which was a benefit, a plus. But we created a couple of chances other than that were missed. And we allowed them far too much space in behind. If they'd have had a bit more quality about them, they'd have scored another 2 or 3 in the opening 15 minutes. And we give away an absolute stupid goal, for them to win the game. And we showed that a number of players in this squad have not got a brain whatsoever. So when you add all that together, as well as the form that we're on, as well as how bad we've been away from home this season, and you say to me, would you take a point tomorrow? Now, as I said, I'd absolutely snatch your hand off for it, because I think a point, be it 0-0, be it 1-0, be it 2-0, whatever it is, yes, it doesn't massively help Everton's situation, but it also doesn't help Burnley's situation either. I have got not 1 inch of confidence in me to sit here and say, no, I wouldn't take a point, because I've got that much belief that we'll get 3 points. Because as I said, the last time we picked up anything away from home was in December, in a game that the manager at the time effectively threw. And let's be honest, we were all surprised that we got anything out of that game. The time before that was Manchester United, and when we played Manchester United, we were relatively optimistic about where we could go this season, and that's how bad we've been. And that's an indication of how disastrous this season has been. So that's what rides on tomorrow. The anxiety, the worry, the nervousness, all hangs on that game of football tomorrow. And it's difficult because the players will be feeling that as well. And the situation is the players can't feel that. They absolutely can't feel that. They've got to go out there believing, do you know what, we're going to win this game of football, we're going to give absolutely everything and we'll be okay, we'll get through, we'll beat these, we'll show our quality, we'll show our, the performance, and we'll go and get the result. But the reality is, I think these players deep down probably know that they're not very good at football, and their previous performances would probably be reminding them that actually, are we good enough to just turn up and beat Burnley as we should be? That's a massive question. But the reality is, as I said, tomorrow is gigantic. It's absolutely gigantic, and I think tomorrow will be at the point where if we do lose, a lot of the Blues that have been very much of the, no, we're not going to go down, we'll be all right. I think a lot of that will change if we lose tomorrow. But we've got to try and be as positive as possible. We have Burnley aren't in very good form whatsoever. They haven't had a very good season themselves. I've seen a couple of Burnley fans a little bit frustrated with Sean Dyche's press conference today, because I think he was asked a question along the lines of, how can you beat Everton tomorrow, when he said just put the ball in the back of the net, which, to be fair, is true. And, we've spoken a lot recently about Everton defensively and how bad we've been defensively. And I'm not going to sit here and, praise or back the back line, because they've been an absolute shambles, a lot of them. From Mason Holgate to Michael Keane to Ben Godfrey to John Joe Kenny, Seamus Coleman, Vitaly Mikalenko, they've all been absolutely dreadful. But I also think it's important to remember that Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Anthony Gordon, Damari Gray all have no goals in the last, 5, 6, 7 games. Premier League games, in for that matter. Which is extremely worrying, because I think we get into this habit of pointing at the defence, because, when they make mistakes, it's evident, i.e., Michael Keane or Ben Godfrey or Mason Holgate, when they make mistakes, it's there we typically concede when the defenders make mistakes. But we also have to look at the forward line as well. They're not doing their job, and yes, they're not getting the service that maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison needs to be able to provide that. But that service has got to come from your Anthony Gordons and your Damari Grays, and they're not doing that at the moment. So it's collective failure at the moment. It's not just the defence, it's not just the attack, it's collective. And that collective failure has to change, and we have to turn, we have to improve drastically in every way, sense or form. Frank Lampard has had his press conference today. He has confirmed that Nathan Patterson will likely be out for the rest of the season. He has picked up an injury, obviously, prior to the game against West Ham. We knew from Frank Lampard's post-game press conference after West Ham that Nathan Patterson was actually due to start that one and make his Premier League debut for Everton, which would have been however many weeks too late, but he picked up an injury, and the manager's confirmed today that injury will require a minor operation, and it will keep him out for around 8 to 10 weeks. So we'll probably not see Nathan Patterson now until the summer. I think Frank Lampard even actually said in his press conference today that hopefully he can get over this injury and be ready to go at the start of next season. So I think even the manager's conceding that he won't be back before the end of the season. Frank Lampard also confirmed that Donny van de Beek will be unavailable for this one. He's got a slight thigh strain, nothing too serious, but enough to keep him out of this game tomorrow. And obviously he won't be able to play against Manchester United at the weekend either, so we're not going to see Donny van de Beek for a couple of weeks. The manager did confirm that Fabian Delph and Seamus Coleman are available. He said how available Seamus Coleman is to start is a different question, because he was feeling unwell. Fabian Delph is back in the squad. No mention of Andre Gomez. Don't know what's going on there. And Yerry Mina is still unavailable, albeit getting better. And I think he was asked about Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well, and he said something along the lines of Dom is absolutely fine. Basically, he's getting fitter by the day. He's got no problems, and he's raring to go, which is a positive. And we're going to need Dominic Calvert-Lewin tomorrow. Burnley are a notoriously difficult team to beat, a notoriously difficult team to break down. Albeit Manchester City did beat them last time out, but it took Manchester City an awful lot to be able to break that Burnley side down. The game ended 2-0 in the end, but in the opening 15-20 minutes, a lot of teams against that Manchester City side would have been 2 or 3-0 down, but we know Burnley keep it tight, they keep it compact. They've got the likes of Tarkowski, Ben Mee, solid defenders who can be a problem to any centre forward. And my biggest worry going into tomorrow is what I've seen recently from Everton and Everton's attack. More specifically, is that they're not particularly giving Premier League defenders anything to worry about. I stood at the London Stadium for 90 plus minutes on Sunday, and Kurt Zouma and Craig Dawson had quite possibly the easiest game they will ever have as centre backs. It was disastrous. I think Craig Dawson got man of the match, and I don't even think he barely touched the ball. So we simply cannot allow Ben Mee and James Tarkowski to have that same experience tomorrow. We've got to be putting them under pressure. We've got to be throwing the crosses in. We've got to utilise Dominic Calvert-Lewin's strengths. And we all know Dominic Calvert-Lewin's strengths is his ability in the air. We all know Dominic Calvert-Lewin's strengths is the ball bouncing around in the 6-yard box and him getting on the end of it. And that's also a strength of Richarlison's as well. I think Richarlison's got a little bit more about him in the sense of creating his own opportunities, but he's not fucking Lionel Messi, is he? He's not Cristiano Ronaldo. He doesn't pick the ball up from 30 yards out often, take 4 players on and create, and score a goal from it. He's done it more than Dom has, but he doesn't do it frequently. A lot of Richarlison's goals come from poaching areas, places where he picks the ball up and he gets on the end of it, headers, etc. So, we're mentioning the fact that we're not scoring enough goals, and albeit, okay, we're not creating enough chances, but that's got to change. That's got to change. For me, if it's Iwobi, if it's Gray, if it's Gordon tomorrow starting, then if they get the ball in those wide areas and they see Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison hovering about the 6-yard box, they've got to get the ball in the box. You know, I love Anthony Gordon. I absolutely love him. I think he gives everything, he works hard, and he's the last player, I think, in this squad that you can sit here and criticise. But the reality is that there are at times when he gets the ball on the edge of the box, and I think in his mind he's thinking, right, I'm going to take this player on here, I'm going to go past him, and that's fine because, you know, we bemoan players not wanting to beat a man and not wanting to take responsibility and take accountability, and that's fine. But sometimes in a game, you've got to get your head up and think, actually, do you know what? He's free in the box there. If I whip a ball in, he can beat the defender with his height, with his, with his explosiveness. And that might be, you know, a chance created. That might be a goal. Now, albeit Tom has missed some pretty woeful chances in recent weeks, and as has Richarlison, and I understand that if they go in, it's a different conversation. But it may only take one goal for Dom, one goal for Richarlison, and then they may get back into the feel of things. And let's be honest, we need that at the moment. We absolutely need that. You know, as I said, Burnley have got some quality in there. Maxwell Cornet, I'm a massive fan of him. Verst Weghorst, who obviously they brought in the summer as well. Again, like Ben Mee, as we said, Dwight McNeil, of course, who last season in both games against Everton was absolutely pivotal in Burnley's success. Didn't do much at Goodison Park early on in the season, it has to be said. Obviously, they've got Aaron Lennon, who come back to the club, former Everton player, of course, scored at Old Trafford early on in the season, proving that he can still put the ball in the back of the net if given opportunities. And you know, for me, like I said, this game is as important for Burnley as it is for Everton. It's not like we're going into it against a team that are just sort of mid-table, hovering around and thinking, well, you know what, there's not much in this for us. It's not like we're going into it against a team that will have their foot off the gas a little bit and will be in second gear. And if we can give it everything, that we might be able to counteract that. We're going in against a team that will be given 110% as well, and we'll be knowing that 3 points for them is could that be absolutely season defining as it can be for Everton. And my biggest worry going into this one is that we're away from home, and typically away from home we've been absolutely catastrophic all season, and that's just being against teams that, you know, often have got very little to play for and are just turning up and doing their thing. Never mind against teams that are willing to give absolutely everything and are willing to fight and battle more than we are. I do feel in the bottom of my heart that this one could come down to who wants it more. I really, really do, and that's again another big worry. Because, you know, you look at a game like this and the importance of a game like this and the magnitude of a game like this, and you sort of do think, don't you, that if this is going to come down to who wants it more, then how confident are we that Everton will want it more than Burnley? I can't sit here and say I'm confident of that. I can't sit here and say I'm confident that Everton will want it more than Burnley. And that, as I said, that could be the difference maker. What I don't want to be doing is sitting here tomorrow saying, oh, another game where they turn up and they throw the towel in, or there's not enough effort, or there's not enough desire, or there's not enough commitment, this, that and the other. There's got to be a change tomorrow. And as I said, you know, some people will say, oh, Cam, you add an extra pressure on this one. You know, if we lose this one, doesn't mean it's all over. It doesn't. We've still got a massive game against Watford away, you know, towards the end of the season, a massive game against Brentford at home, a couple of games against the big teams that we could pick up points. But this one just feels so important, doesn't it? You just look at this game. There's a reason why this game wasn't being televised 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden Sky have jumped straight on it to televise it. Because they know the magnitude of this game and the difference that 3 points could make to both teams. You know, Everton pick up 3 points, and all of a sudden, not only is that an extra 3 points for us, and we go 6 points clear of the drop with a couple of games in hand, but also that might knock Burnley on the head, and Burnley might be thinking, oh, we're too far away from it now, and again, their confidence will be driven. Burnley get the 3 points, all of a sudden Everton are dragged into it, and Burnley are thinking, do you know what, we can get out of this here. And again, Everton are still mumbling on with no confidence or no momentum. So, yeah, again, it's worrying, isn't it? It really, really is worrying. How important this game is, and as I said, absolutely no disrespect to Burnley. Burnley playing a way that frustrates everybody. You see fans of different football clubs every year saying relegate Burnley, this, that, and the other. They're anti-football and all of this and all of that, and Sean Dyche this, that, the other. It doesn't bother me, to be honest, because the way I look at football is very different to the way a lot of other fans look at football. There's a lot of football fans on this planet that look at football in the sense that if you're not entertaining me, then I don't really care what the situation is. If it's not entertaining, then I don't want you there. I look at football like you do whatever you fucking can to get the points. And if that means Burnley sticking 11 men behind the ball every week and staying in the Premier League for 6-7 years on very minimal budget in a situation where they should not really be in the Premier League given what they've spent and what their output is, then they're doing something right, and I don't have any problem with it whatsoever. For me, it's down to other teams to be able to counteract that, and when the big teams play Burnley and they moan that, oh, they just stick 11 men behind the ball, that makes me laugh, because I think you've spent 500 million, they've spent about £3.50, and yet they've stuck 11 men behind the ball. What do you want them to do? Come out and go toe-to-toe with you and lose 18-0? No. It's up to you to go and break that down, and that's very much where I am with Everton tomorrow, although Everton aren't in a situation of being towards the top end of the table. We have spent 500 million, and it will be up to Everton, I feel, tomorrow to break this Burnley team down, and we have to be aware of the quality that they can bring in the counter-attack, the likes of Maxwell Cornet, the likes of, as I said, Vers Vegas, the likes of, Dwight McNeil, who've got that quality. They're a big physical team, Burnley. 3 points to them is as important as it is to us, and I think a draw is more of a positive result for Everton than it is for Burnley. I think Burnley will be looking at this one tomorrow, given their situation, thinking we need a win. So maybe that'll work as a benefit for Everton, because maybe that'll force Burnley to come out a little bit more and attack a little bit more, and maybe that'll open the space for Everton. But maybe Sean Dyche will say no, play how we usually play, sit back and then hit them on the counter when we can. When you look at some of their recent fixtures, again, it's not really been a good run for them. 2-0 defeat to Manchester City last time out, albeit they made it difficult in that opening, sort of half an hour for City. 2-0 defeat to Brentford away from home the week before that. 4-0 loss last time. The time before at Turf Moor to Chelsea. 2-0 loss again at Turf Moor to Leicester. 1-1 draw away at Palace, which is a massive result considering how good Palace have been this season and how good specifically they've been at home, i.e. Arsenal last night. And the last time they won was actually a 1-0 win against Spurs at Turf Moor, which was some weeks ago. So, again, not in great form, losing games of football and losing to teams that are in a better situation than they are, with more confidence and with, let's be honest, better quality of players. But they're still making it difficult for teams. And that's where I look at Everton and I look at your Burnleys and I look at your Watfords, and I watched Watford play Liverpool the other day, and yes, they lost, and ultimately at the end of the day, I said this with the City game, it doesn't matter if you give everything and you work and you battle and this, that and the other. If you lose, you lose, and if you don't take anything from the positives of the previous performance, despite you've lost, then it means nothing. I.e., we didn't take anything from the City performance, even though it was very good, because we lost the following week, so therefore the City performance means nothing. But I just look at your Burnleys and Watfords, and I think when I'm watching them and they're losing, they're not losing in the same manner as Everton are losing. Everton are losing in a manner that, okay, maybe you take away, West Ham, we give away a silly goal, we worked hard, we battled, and until the sending off, we were very much in that game, we were creating chances. But you look at your Palaces and your Tottenhams and stuff, and their losses are very much just throwing the towel in and not really being interested. Whereas Burnley and Watford are losing games where they're making it difficult for the teams that they're playing. They're battling, they're working hard, they're fighting, and they're genuinely making it tough for those sides. And that's another thing that worries me going into this one tomorrow is, can Everton deal with that? Will this be the game that Burnley go, well, do you know what? If we play like we did against City, or if this, that and the other, Tottenham, we'll get a result here. And again, I'm sorry for being pessimistic. I'm sorry for coming across a little bit negative, but, I just... I just can't really pinpoint many positives going into this one. I really, really can't. And, I was listening to Frank Lampard's press conference today, and it's gotten to the point now where I only really listen to the press conferences for injury news. I'm not really interested about what else is being said, to be honest with you. And that's sad, because that's not an indication on Frank Lampard. I like Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard seems like a genuinely lovely fella. He seems like somebody that, comes across as a nice fella, The position that we're in at the moment isn't anything to do with Frank Lampard directly. Yes, he's made some mistakes. Yes, he's made some poor managerial decisions. I understand that. But the position that we're in the league, the position that this club is in as a football club, isn't anything to do with Frank Lampard. But yeah, still I watch his press conferences. And as I said, other than the injury news and the updates on squad fitness and stuff, pretty much everything that comes out of his mouth, I just sort of think, yeah, I've heard that before. Heard this before, heard that before. I'm not interested in it. You know, the players know what they need to do. They know the task. They're going to work at it. They're going into it with a positive mindset. Because I've heard it all before, not just with Frank Lampard, but under Ancelotti, Benitez, Marco Silva, Roberto Martinez used to be the king of it, coming out and basically saying the same thing every week, but nothing changing. And I know Frank Lampard has got to be that way. He's not going to come out and say, oh yeah, we're shitting ourselves for this one because it's a big game. He's going to come out and try and talk it up as positively as possible. And that's why I think the press conferences, when we're in a situation like we're in, are very much pointless, because they're very much just the same of the same. Much of a muchness. As I said, the only reason I think a lot of people tune in is to find out the situation with squad fitness and players and stuff. But, you know, I can't even begin to express how important this game of football is tomorrow. It really, really is. And do you know what? I suppose if we're going to look at a positive, the performance on Sunday was better than it has been recently. It was a much better away performance than the one against Palace and the one against Tottenham. Albeit, I don't think West Ham were as good as Palace were or Tottenham were, to be honest with you. So maybe that had a part to play in it. But you know, we attacked, we got at them, we created opportunities, we battled. You know, we had a sending off again, which was just another player that shouldn't be anywhere near the club making another stupid decision. But you know, we scored a goal, which was the first time we've done that in an away game for however long. And there was positives to take from it. We've got to implement those positives into tomorrow evening now. And for me, I think what will be vitally important is whoever scores the first goal tomorrow evening, if there is to be a goal. As I said, I'd snatch your hand off for a 0-0 now. I'd absolutely snatch your hand off. If you are enjoying, by the way, if you could hit that like button, it would mean a massive amount to me. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. But the first goal for me could be absolutely vital tomorrow, and will be absolutely vital tomorrow at the end of the day, because we've seen before, time and time again, you know, albeit, okay, Sunday was different, and hopefully we see more of what we saw on Sunday in terms of reactions to conceding rather than what we've seen in previous weeks and months and years. But we know, generally, barring Sunday, when Everton go 1-0 down away from home, that typically is how the game will fold out. And, you know, the opposition might score again, or the opposition might get another couple. But, you know, when was the last time Everton went 1-0 down away from home and won a game of football? Not in a long, long time. Last time I can remember was Watford away a couple of years ago when Walcott scored the winner in the last minute. I might be wrong. There might have been a game under Ancelotti last season when there was no fans in the stadium in which we did it. But typically when Everton go 1-0 down, we don't really come back into the game. Premier League games, I'm talking here, I know there'll have been a couple of cup games where we did. But we don't typically come back in and get results and win games. And it used to be that we didn't win games from losing positions. Now we don't even draw games from losing positions. You'd almost know that when we go 1-0 down, it's going to be game over. And that's because of a reaction. That's because of the players not applying themselves in the right manner, not reacting in the right manner. So, and I don't think that's a mentality thing that you change overnight. I don't think all of a sudden the players will turn up at Turf Moor tomorrow, and if they go 1-0 down in 10 minutes, it'll all of a sudden be, right, you know what, we'll just forget about it and we'll bounce back. I think it'll be very much of a, oh, we're 1-0 down again, we're going to lose the pressure, you know, everything will go out the window. So the first goal for me tomorrow is absolutely monumental, and again, that goal could be season defining in itself. I also think Everton have started the last couple of away games really, really positively. Palace, we were great in the opening 10-15 minutes. It meant nothing ultimately because look at how the game turned out. Tottenham, we were very consoling. We were keeping the ball. We were keeping them at bay for the first 10-15 minutes. And Sunday against West Ham, okay, we didn't create a lot of chances, but there was one period of time where over a 10-minute spell, we had something like 80% possession. We have to make that count tomorrow night. We have to make that count. If we're going to have a good explosive start and put Burnley on the back burner and be getting forward and be creating chances, it can't be like Palace where after 20 minutes we're sitting here saying, well, we've done well there, we've worked hard, we've created stuff, but nothing's come out of it. And then the opposition team slowly but surely creeps into the game, gets more confidence, they score the first goal, and then it's game over. If we're going to come out the sticks flying tomorrow, as we have done in the last few weeks, and I don't see why it'd be any different, then we've got to get an early goal. Go out there, and in the opening 10 minutes, make one of those chances count. Go and get a goal. You know, get a couple. Because if you get a goal in the opening 10-15 minutes, the Burnley players will naturally be thinking, here we go again. Because they've been in this situation a number of times, and they'll battle and they'll work because they're at home and the importance of the game. But if you can go a goal up and then throw 11 men behind the ball, Burnley are an unbelievable team in terms of quality going forward. They're a very difficult team to break down and beat, and that's why I think it'll be much more difficult to do that than it will have been over the last couple of weeks or so in the last few games. But if we can do that, then we put ourselves in a much, much better position of getting something out the game. Can you imagine we go 1-0 up in the first 10-15 minutes tomorrow, and then we keep pressing, and we do that for 25, half an hour, and then, you know, when we see the game starting to simmer out a little bit and Burnley starting to get some control, we control it in the midfield. I think the midfield will be key tomorrow, and it'll be interesting. You know, the manager said that Fabian Delph is available, and we'll do our predicted starting 11 in a moment, but we know there's no Donny van der Beek, we know there's no Alan in there, we don't know what's going on with Andre Gomez, we know Tom Davies is still unavailable, so at the moment, Abdoulaye Doucouré and Fabian Delph are the only real two centre midfielders, if you like, other than looking at, obviously, the younger players on the bench. So that could be the difference. Going 1-0 up in the opening 15 minutes and then controlling the game. Not doing anything silly, not giving anything away. Defensively, keeping it structured, keeping it solid. We can say all of this, can't we? We can sit here, I can sit here all alike and say this could be the difference, that could be the difference, the other could be the difference, but ultimately it relies on the player's application and the player's commitment and the player's desire and the players want to go out and win this game and the player's mindset of how important this game is. I think that it needs to be communicated just how important this game of football is. And it's difficult because Frank Lampard would probably say, well, I don't want to put too much pressure on them. I don't want to come out and say, you know, if we don't win this one, we're down, because then the players, their mentality isn't strong enough to be able to deal with that, and they'll just crumble. But I think there's a fine line between saying that and making sure the players know that this isn't just another game of football. This isn't just another game where you're turning up away. If you don't do your job and you don't perform and you don't win, you know, it's all right, we'll go again at home next week. This is an absolute crunch game, and the players need to know that. You know, it's quite evident that they knew that for the game against Newcastle, because although it wasn't a great game of football, and although it wasn't an unbelievable watch, there was something about that game in which not only did we score a last-minute winner, a 99th minute winner, but for the entirety of the game, it was a different Everton. The reactions were different. The application of the players was different. We went down to 10 men with 10 minutes to go, 15 minutes to go, and instead of the typical drop your heads, sulk, and give up on the game, like we've done previously, like we half did against West Ham, to be fair, it was different. The application was different. Every player gave an extra 10-15% when Alan got sent off, and ultimately we come out with a win. We need that. Whatever the message was pre-Newcastle needs to be the same message for tomorrow. And yes, it's away from home, so it'll be much more difficult, and you won't have the 40,000 Evertonians behind you, but that needs to be the attitude and the mentality that the players use going into this one. Because this is just, as I said, it's sickening to think about how important this game is. I don't want to sound like a big-headed, you know, Everton fan who's sitting here and going, no, we shouldn't be in this position, is that and the other. We're absolutely in this position because we deserve to be in this position, because the club is run by fucking clowns, and when clowns are running the show, you're going to get a circus, aren't you? You're not going to get a really well-managed business when you've got fucking clowns at the top running it. You're going to get a circus, and that's what we are. We're a fucking circus. So I don't want to sit here and sound big-headed of, oh, we shouldn't be in it, but we shouldn't be in this situation, should we? We shouldn't be sitting here talking about a midweek game on a Wednesday night in April against Burnley and talking about how this could be the difference between us staying up and going down. It's fucking saddening. It's absolutely saddening how far this club has dropped. But this is where we are, and it's up to Frank Lampard now to show what he's made of, and these players to show what they're made of, and go out and put in a positive performance tomorrow. And as I said, if you can't win it, don't lose it. It's as simple as that. Let's get into some of the comments then before we go into our predicted starting 11. Before we finish up, of course, it's Do or Dice, says Wanderlust. Interesting. Huge blow for Nathan Patterson, says Eugene. Exactly 8 to 10 weeks. Yep. Let the redemption begin. Well, we'll wait and see. It's okay, boys. Delph is back, says Slothy. Here's hoping for the Mighty Blues tomorrow, not the Shitey Blues. Yeah, Philip says, hey up, lad, what's happening? It's Do or Die, says Stephen. Jason says, hi, Cam, hi, everybody. First laugh for me in a while, as I haven't been able to handle it. Tomorrow's the biggest game in 20 plus years. I would agree, mate. I would agree. Eugene's going for 4-1 Everton. I don't quite think it will be that. I don't think we've got that in us, to be honest with you, but I like your positivity. We're going to batter these. Nah, I'm messing, says Louis. I can't watch it. I'll just check score on my phone. Less stressful. Felt my throat claiming up due to stress at West Ham. Enough is enough, says Lavervid. Yeah, and again, I will be watching it. I'm still desperate to get a ticket, so if anybody knows anybody that can get me 3 tickets, please do so, because I've got an addiction to being hurt by this football club. Please do let me know. But I understand it completely. It's the feeling and the thought of it. Even just sitting down to do this preview, it's like a derby. I get this before a derby. This feeling of just, oh shit, here we go again. But I'm getting it for the midweek game against Burnley in April, which just shows where we are as a football club. Cam Topman against Burnley. What should be our plan? Well, as I said, for me, I think if we're going to come out fast, if we're going to come out the sticks quickly, I think it's got to be to take advantage of that. And get that early goal, which will be so important. Just on your mic there, Cam, is there? I'm not even bothered to be worried about it. Delph says Wanderlost. Philip says, I feel really bad for thousands of Do or Die Evertonians who'll sing their hearts out. Absolutely. I would defo accept a draw, says Louis. I'd accept 0-0 all day, says Wanderlust. Absolutely. Mike says, not confident. Without a way form for a draw, you'd eat their hand in the scran they were holding, Cam. Absolutely, mate. And Anders says, I couldn't tell you who scores tomorrow. Not one player in any sort of form. And that's it. And that's the worry. And that's what I was saying about, that's what I was saying about the defence and a lot of people, having a go at the defence and with the mistakes and this, that and the other. And that's absolutely true. And, for me, as I said, the defence and their mistakes need to be criticised and need to be called out. And with the exception of Yerry Mina, I don't think we've got a good defender there. We've got maybe a good attacking fullbacks for the future, and maybe Ben Godfrey will be a solid defender in the future, but I don't think he's a top level Premier League defender at the moment. But it's not just the defence. The defence aren't not scoring, are they? The defence aren't not creating chances for the strikers. It's a collective fuck up, not just defensively. It's not like we're losing every game 5-4 or 6-5. And the attackers aren't doing their jobs either. Anyway, let's get into the predicted starting 11 ahead of this one. Obviously, as I said, Frank Lampard has had his pre-game press conference today. He has confirmed that Donny van de Beek, Nathan Patterson, Yerry Mina will all be out of this one. Fabian Delph returns to fitness. Seamus Coleman will be in and around the squad. Whether or not he's fit enough to start is a different question. And Andre Gomez is probably getting an haircut and a beard trim because he didn't get mentioned and he wasn't in the squad the other day, so I don't really know where he is. Anyway, let's get straight into it. In goal, Jordan Pickford, of course. I've watched the free kick again. I don't think he's a fault for it on Sunday. I think his dive makes him look like he's a fault for it, which is sort of makes me think, why did he dive? Because he was never going to get to that ball in the first place, and the dive almost sort of, it almost looks like he's positioned poorly, but he's not positioned poorly. It's just an absolutely unbelievable free kick. The technique behind it is absolutely unbelievable. And yeah, there's nothing he can do about it. And even if there was, he'd still be in this team, wouldn't he? Let's be honest, because he's our number one goalkeeper. Left back, I'm going for Ben Godfrey. I think defensively, we're going to have to be a lot better. Tomorrow than what we were against West Ham, albeit West Ham didn't create an awful lot. I think there was a lot of space left in behind from both Vitaly Mykolenko and John Joe Kenny. Yes, you could say Mykolenko is naturally left-footed and he's naturally left-sided, but my argument with Mykolenko would be, will you get more out of him going forward than Ben Godfrey? But you don't get nothing out of Mykolenko going forward, or we haven't so far. And I'm not saying that's his fault. He's young, he's got a lot going on, and he's new to the league, etc., etc. But if we're looking at defensive ability, which we are, because you don't get much from either of them going forward, then I'd rather have Ben Godfrey in there, and at least you'd have a solid left back, a solid defender in there to do the duties. Centre backs then. It leaves us with the obvious pairing. I'm going with Mason Holgate and Jared Branthwaite. Michael Keane obviously is suspended. Yerry Mina is still out injured. The only other partnership I could see is Holgate and Godfrey as centre backs with Mikalenko at left back, which might potentially be the choice that Frank Lampard goes with. But I think Jared Branthwaite deserves an opportunity now. As I said, last time he played in the Premier League for Everton, he scored against Chelsea in the last game that we picked up points away from home in, and he was really, really solid defensively that day as well. He made some really, really good attacking players, Champions League winning attacking players. We give them real problems all game, and as I said, he proved a threat in the other box as well. So I think Jared Branthwaite deserves an opportunity in there. Mason Holgate next to him. Listen, Mason is Mason. I actually think he was better as a centre midfielder on Sunday than what he has been as a centre defender at any point this season, really. But we haven't got any central defenders. We haven't got any central midfielders either, to be honest with you. We're in an absolute state at the moment. But, as I said, if Ben Godfrey's going to play at left back, then Mason Holgate will play at centre back, won't he? And then right back, I'm going with Seamus Coleman. Obviously, we heard the news today, unfortunately, that Nathan Patterson is out for around about 8 to 10 weeks, probably until the end of the season. Which is just Everton's luck, isn't it, really? I feel really sorry for Nathan Patterson because it looked like he just made that impression on Frank Lampard with the international break and obviously how he's been performing in training. He just made that impression to be able to get that opportunity to have his Premier League debut and starting games for Everton, and then all of a sudden he picks up an injury that is going to keep him out for the rest of the season. But I suppose that is what it is. John Joe Kenny wouldn't be starting another game of football for Everton in his life for me. And he wouldn't be getting a new contract in the summer. So that leaves Seamus Coleman. Obviously, the manager said today that we don't know whether or not he's going to be fit to start, but I will go on the assumption that he is fit to start, which might be a wild assumption, but we'll go with it. Into the midfield then, I'm going with a 3 in midfield. Now, formation at the minute for me is just, it's up in the air. We could go with 2 up front, we could go with 5 at the back, we could go... Again, I'm just going with a 4-2-1-3 sort of formation, and, conceding that it probably won't be that, it will probably be something else. But, ultimately at the moment, we don't really know, do we? So I'm going with a 3 in midfield, 2 holding and 1 a little bit further forward. I'm going with Fabian Delph, Abdoulaye Doucouré, and I'm actually going with Iwobi in there as well. Now, let's talk about Delph first, because I've been very critical of Delph and him as a player. I'm also probably him as a professional as well. I don't think he wants to be at Everton. I don't think he'll be here come the summer. I think he's absolutely robbed the 3 years that he's had here in terms of the injuries that he's had and the amount of games that he's played. However, it has to be said that technically, he's a much more effective footballer than what Andre Gomez is, and they're the 2 options. And actually, when he come on against Wolves early in the season, I mentioned Wolves because it's the specific game that I remember because I was there, he changed the game. Now, obviously, we still lost the game and we weren't very good, particularly in the second half, but in terms of just being a solid midfielder and doing the basics well and keeping Wolves at bay, he done that to a good enough extent. Obviously, Jean-Philippe Gbamin come off and he'd had an absolute disaster of a first half, and Fabian Delph come on and just shored it up a little bit, just made sure everything was solid, everything was working. And yes, we didn't get back in the game and we didn't ultimately get anything out of it, but he put in a performance that made me think, you've got something there. That experience, obviously that experience of being a Premier League winning and winning everything with Manchester City and stuff, obviously has rubbed off on him. And, for as much as we mightn't necessarily like him or mightn't necessarily think he's been a success at the club, he is a good footballer. And at the end of the day, I don't really give a shit whether he's a nice fella or not, or whether he's a this, that, and the other. He might be a nice fella, and I'm just going off of what the assumptions I've made of him over some of the things I've read and seen and heard over the last few years. But at the end of the day, ultimately, look, he's there to play football. He's there earning a wage to play football, and if he's fit, we need him. We've got no Alan, we've got no Donny van der Beek. Abdoulaye Doucouré struggled in recent weeks, so I don't think he can be the sort of mainstay in that midfield. So Fabian Delph will have to step in and will have to do a job. And if he can do anywhere near the job that he did at Wolves, then I think we could could just be in with a chance of actually controlling this game tomorrow, which is, I know it's scary to even say and think like that, but that could happen. So I've gone with Fabian Delph in there. As I said, Doucouré next to him. He hasn't been particularly good in recent weeks, Abdoulaye Doucouré, but we haven't really got any other option. So he's going in there. And then I'm going with Iwobi in the sort of 10. I actually don't think Iwobi was too bad the other day. I've seen a lot of people saying he was awful, and yes, he was at fault for the second goal and this, that and the other, and I understand that, but I actually think he played a couple of really nice balls into Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, and they made an absolute mess of them. And as I said on the instant match reaction, and I think I said it in the review as well, there was a number of times where Iwobi had the ball at his feet and was showing for it and was holding his arms out and was almost saying, come and get it, make a move for me. And all three attackers, Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Demarai Gray, were sort of just standing there and not making any sort of movement for him. And there's not much he can do in that situation. He wasn't great against West Ham, don't get me wrong, and he made the mistake which ultimately led to the winning goal. But again, what many other options have we got? And then from three, I'm going with Anthony Gordon, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. I'm dropping Demarai Gray. I don't think he's been anywhere near good enough in recent weeks to warrant being a mainstay in the team. You could say, well, yeah, but he's got that quality that can win a game, or he's got that ability to score a goal that can win a game. He has, but the reality is he hasn't done it in any of his last however many games. And yes, he's been out injured, and you could say he's been thrown straight back in after an injury, and he's not fully recovered. I get all of that, but the reality is Anthony Gordon was benched for the game against West Ham. Demarai Gray was given the opportunity to start and show something and didn't. So I think it's got to be the other way around now. Anthony Gordon gets back in the team. I think Richarlison and Dom are going to start either way. As I said, we need to play to their strengths. We need to play to Dom's strengths specifically. If he's in the box and he's on his own, get the ball into him. And you might say there's not enough width in that team, but if Richarlison stays wide and plays as a winger or interchanges with Alex Iwobi, then maybe there is. And I look at the players and I just think there's not one formation and group of 11 players that I think we'd all sit here and say, yeah, absolutely, that's the winning formula. There'd be a problem with every sort of selection process we could pick, because that's how bad this group have been recently. But yeah, there you go. That is my predicted starting 11. Let us know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. If you agree, let us know. If you disagree, let us know. But yeah, for me, listen, this one is massive, absolutely monumental, season defining. Biggest game of the season, arguably biggest game of the last decade, some people would say. And the absolute worry and anxiety that it's given me going into it is just is scary. But I'm sure we're all feeling the same. And look, hopefully this time, well, not this time, but hopefully, well, this time on Thursday, we're a lot happier and we're a lot more content. And as I said, a win would do that. A win would certainly take the pressure off us a little bit. But a draw would be, for me, the minimum. A loss tomorrow would be fucking absolutely disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. But we'll wait and see. We've got to be positive. The players have got to be positive. The manager's got to be positive. And as I said, for me, the most positive thing to look at is if we're going to come out firing in the opening 10-15 minutes, as we have done recently, make it count. Go and get a goal. Go and make it count. Put Burnley on the back burner. And then if you need to sit 11 men behind the ball for the rest of the game, do it. Because Burnley haven't got an unbelievable amount of quality that they'll break that down. It's not Man City where you look and go, yeah, but even if you do that, they could still score 3 or 4. Burnley are unlikely to do that. So get a goal, maybe even 2 goals up early on, and then manage the game. Game management, as I mentioned yesterday. But we'll have to wait and see. Agree with that at 100%. Wayne says Gordon needs to play. He's the only one this season that will give it 100%. Asrat says, don't care who we play as long as we win. Absolutely. Delph can be a complete player, but if he helps our midfield on the pitch, I won't mind him. Hence all my Redelphian shouts. Yeah. Rondon couldn't hold the ball up against Bournemouth. Would never mind Burnley. Rondon shouldn't be starting the game. I'd rather play Dobbin at this point, says Carter. Interesting. Say we stay up, what will change for next season? Well, we need a whole new board. Chairman needs to go. CEO needs to go. Owner needs to sell. It won't happen, but that's what needs to happen for me. And the majority of the squad need to go as well. Carter says, JJK wouldn't deserve a new contract at Mackey's, let alone playing professional football. Eugene, I wouldn't play Rondon at all. I play the kids. Adam said, we need to play Jared. Nullifies the 6'6" centre forward with a 6'5" centre half. I've just mentioned that then. I actually think Jared Branthwaite is the right choice tomorrow, regardless of whether Ben Godfrey plays left back or not. JJK can get a new contract somewhere else in the Premier League, the Canadian Premier League. I hear FC Edmonton's looking for these days. Listen. Yeah. Let's not get into the John Joe Kenny conversation. Anyway, look, we are going to finish it up there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It would only take a second. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We will be back tomorrow with the instant match reaction and the player ratings, so don't forget to look out for those as well. Massive thanks to everybody for watching the live comments and getting involved in the live comments. I really do appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as possible. But yeah, let's see how this one pans out. Biggest game of the season. No pressure. Let's see. Let's wait and see what happens. But yeah, as I said, regardless of what the results and the performance is, we'll be back with the instant match reaction and the player ratings tomorrow after the game. So don't forget to join us for those. But anyway, big thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.